5 learnings from the Socceroos 2-1 defeat to the USA in the October window. And number one, I think, is the most obvious and everyone is crying out. Geordie Boss is a bloody good footballer. The funny thing is he scored the goal and there was a little bit of fortune with it. I don't even think that cracks like the top 3 good things he did in this game. He was just consistently, I think, for Australia, the best player in that park for 90 minutes. His ability to, when he was under pressure, just find a little pocket of space that didn't necessarily move the ball forward, but just alleviated the pressure on himself and let him be able to find that next pass. He had that run kind of midway to the late second part of the second half as well, where he got a slight meter of space in his one-on-one, saw the park open up through the middle and just absolutely bombed through it and just created an attacking third entry on his own. And it kind of sat on his left foot. I think he was trying to find the run of Moture as well, and maybe he was just wasn't quite decisive. Sorry?
He got bumped a bit on that run.
And he probably got slightly fouled as well. And making runs down the left side, beating plays and one-on-ones and passing combinations. I think he's Australia's best footballer at the moment. I really think he is. I think when you talk about potential, I think Nesta still has that highest ceiling of anyone. But I think when we talk about current Australian footballers right now, I think Geordie Boss is at the top of the list. And I think he's had 2 months at Feyenoord, won a player of the Eredivisie for the month. Like, why is he not going to be looked at for another big move next season? I don't know. I can just see him going so high.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that. It's a really good point. I thought massive difference, starting from the get-go. And I thought it's just the difference with Boss is every time I watch him play, it's the way he's able to create that extra space for himself. So in years gone past, whoever's playing at fullback for the Socceroos, maybe at times, if you're a bit under pressure, you pass the ball back or you take the easy option. Whereas Boss sometimes can open up his body, look at the open field of grass and just run forward, right? And that's sort of the attacking presence that he has, and we've sort of been lacking that creativity as well, where he's able to get crossed into the box more often. He's able to link up with the final third, able to link up with the striker, whatever the case may be. He's just got so many assets to his game. And it's not like he's a poor defender either, right? We talk about his attacking ability. Defensively, I think he's very solid as well. So he's kind of got this all-around presence to him, which, to your point, definitely up there as, if not, the best Socceroos player we have in this current moment in time. Because if you talk pure potential, that probably has to go to Iran Kunda. But as we're sitting here talking right now, the performances that Boss has put in, Popovic surely has him penciled in on the plane next year if all goes according to plan, because without him, that dynamism is just lost, right? We just lose that extra bit of something, and it'd just be disastrous at this point if you're a Socceroos fan and he's not in the squad for whatever reason. So he's been massive and he's got so much growth to go, right? Given his age, it's really exciting times for him.
Very good. I think it's likely as well we're going to see Aziz Bate selected in the next window in November once the A-League gets kicked off as well. And that'll be in the same theme of these last two. Popovic just wants to get eyes on people that are going to be in and around selection for the World Cup and just get what their level is. But with the emergence of Geordie Boss, good luck Aziz trying to knock him off the park. That's pretty stiff on Aziz, really. He's been such a solid player for the Socceroos, and then all of a sudden Geordie Boss comes along. And his brother's not too far behind him as well. Let's go to number 2. And this is another individual player that I think is putting his hand up for selection. Jacob Italiano out on the right wing back. This was a squad where he wasn't initially selected to be part of the team. And then all of a sudden, Frank Karacic has to withdraw again 2 windows in a row through injury. And Italiano comes in. He's playing his football in the Austrian Bundesliga at the moment. Impresses so much in training. He gets a first start against Canada, does well enough, has another start here against the US, and I actually think he played better in this game than he did in Canada. And so all of a sudden, someone who's been provided an opportunity where he may not have got one initially has really taken it with both hands. And look, I think he hasn't done quite enough to usurp Lewis Miller in terms of that number 1 selected position over on the right wing back, but he has to be a solid number 2 and definitely in with a shout.
For sure, and all credit to Popovic, right? If it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for him trying to explore and go the extra yards to pick up someone like Italiano, then we wouldn't be seeing him in the national team. And, for all the criticism that Popovic has copped over recent windows about some of the players he selected, D'Agostino, like I mentioned before, was another one which sort of came out of nowhere. It's about giving these kids and these players chances to show what they're made of. And you can only do that if you able to select them in one or two of these windows and actually give them a chance, not just sit them on the bench, be in the camp, actually put them in there, in the bowling pod and see what they're actually made of against the likes of the US and Canada, two really big nations. So, yeah, I thought he was really positive for the most part. He does the simple things well. Let's put it that way, right? He doesn't make too many errors, not that I've seen over these past two games anyway. Even going forward, I like his creativity, his link-up play. Probably his polish could probably be improved a bit, but he's not there for that, right? He's more there as sort of a defensive option, and Popovic is probably, first and foremost, that's what he wants from him, right? Especially given Jordan Boss and his ability to go up a bit more. And in terms of the attacking side of things, Boss is a bit more, he's got more potential, right, compared to Italiano. But this is a really positive window for him. And given these last two games, you wouldn't put it past Popovic selecting him again. But I do agree that for the meantime, Miller has that number one spot pretty locked up on that right-hand side. But who knows? Anything can happen given, club form. If anything changes, then Italiano, at least Popovic knows that he's a chance to, maybe take that spot from Miller. So it's great that we've got some real diversity of options. I think that's really good.
I think where Boss obviously can play a pass, but is much more of that kind of running fullback in terms of creating those attacking outlets. Italiano, I think, is that passer. He had a few good long balls in behind. Boyle was chasing, who came on as well, Frustic towards the end of the game. Italiano is definitely that passing option. But let's keep working our way through the defence, because apparently that's what we're doing today. And I'm very interested on your opinion on this as well. Because I think point number 3 and learning number 3 from this game is that this version of the back three isn't it. And that's not necessarily a criticism on the selection of this back three. You got Jason Guerrier, Alessandro Ciccati, who played centrally in this game, and then Cam Burgess out left. I just think the lesson that we learned from putting those players in there is that we prefer the other setup. So Ciccati specifically on the right. And I think we're underestimating the impact of Miloš Stegenek and his voice in that defensive three, because the goal that America scored, the second one off that quick free kick that goes in behind, Cam Burgess loses his man. I'm not sure if they get away with that if Miloš Stegenek is there organising the defence. That's just an opinion, right? And we switched off briefly, and Cam Burgess wasn't tight, and the ball gets in behind, and then he cuts inside, and Cam Burgess loses his feet, and then he finishes into the corner. So I think with this central three, just having Ciccati in that wide position as well, it will allow him to get the ball in slightly more higher positions when we're building up, and then it allows him to play those passes as well. And I would rather see that than Alessandro in the middle and Guerrier on the right, as we did in this game.
So who would you have in the middle?
Dejanek.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's tough because whenever you play with a back three, right, you've got to make sure that everyone's on song, everyone's in sync. And obviously in this game, there were just parts where besides the 2 goals, there were just, a few errors creeping in. And like I said before, whether that's got to do with the players, the back three not playing with each other much. Because you saw even Jason Guerrier, for example, right, in the qualification process, he was outstanding when he came in straight off the bat. And he didn't need to play, with Ciccati much consistently, a lot of minutes. They just sort of found their mojo, essentially. That was really surprising. So I think, it was just, for me, had to do more with Burgess just having a really off game, and that's what makes it sort of worse. And look, I'm not going to disagree as such with your point about, this back three not being it, essentially, but I mean, yeah, you're probably right in the sense that Degenek is the more safe option. And in terms of leadership sense, to have him at the back to, vocally be able to, set up the defense and even the midfield as well at times, I thought got caught out a bit when the USA were transitioning, trying to find those pockets of space. Those types of players are priceless, right? Like a Degenek. So with his experience, that's probably something that Popovic is going to turn to in the future. But I mean, even Harry Suter, when he comes back into the fold, is he going to be in the discussion to potentially be in that back three? Because if everyone's fit and healthy, my best three is Chikati on the right, as you said, in the middle, Harry Suter, and the other one, Jason Guerrier. Either Jason Guerrier or Milos Degenek. Or you can even swap around Chikati, because Chikati can play on the left as well. So, I mean, you can probably play with a few options there, but it's a debate as if, do you want Suter in the starting 11? Is he that important? And once Popovic answers that question for himself, then he'll have more of an idea of how his best back three looks. So I think until, he analyzes that, then it's sort of a bit of a guessing game for us.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about Burgess. Individually, definitely was one of his poorer games for the Socceroos. He was just consistently being beaten one-on-one. But you're with me on just Chikati not in the middle, because I think there was a moment as well. I think one of the one-on-ones that you could probably blame Cam Burgess for, I think actually Ale got his spacing a little bit wrong, and there was just a run that came through the middle that was just wide open, kind of late in the second half. Yeah. So you're with me on that?
Yeah, and he's more comfortable there as well. Even when Graham Arnold, when he put Chikati out at fullback, right, it's just not his position. You could probably say the same essentially, albeit he can obviously play there, but his best position is on that right-hand side. So yeah, I agree with you.
All right, number 4, and this is more of a personal thing for me, but I don't think a reality check is a bad thing. We talked about the streak, and you no longer have those consecutive wins and the consecutive undefeated games. But I think there's also something to be said that at the right moment, and this is probably looking on the very glass half full side, I understand that, but a loss every once in a while just keeps you in check. It doesn't let you go into the World Cup saying, we haven't lost in 15 games. How is anyone going to beat us? We're going to win the World Cup, right? Yeah. Every once in a while, I think you just need that.
That was my mentality.
In the back of your mind. Yeah, exactly. I think as soon as we scored that goal, Geordie Boss, people were saying, okay, we're winning the World Cup. And it's not a bad thing every once in a while to just bring those, not expectations and not goals back down to earth, but just remember that it's not complacency, right? We have to still keep putting in the work. We can't switch off like we did for that second goal and allow that easy ball in behind. Got to stay focused all the time. Got to approach each game with the same intensity and continue to earn those wins moving forward.
Well, when would you rather have the reality check, at the World Cup or in a friendly against the US? So I think you're spot on. Yep. And that's something I thought as well at full time. It's like, if ever we wanted a loss under Popovic, now is the time, right? Not, 2 games just before the World Cup, not at the World Cup. The time is now, right? Because now you can make those adjustments, go back to the drawing board a bit where you're not so comfortable as you once were, perhaps, coming up against a quality USA. What are they ranked? 14th, 15th in the world, one of the host nations for next year. A really, really solid test, and obviously just fell short, but that's not to say that it's a bad result at the same time, right? Because as we've touched on from the top, it wasn't Popovic's best side. We weren't going in this game as, thinking it's a World Cup final and absolutely putting everything on the line to win it. That wasn't the case. So these are why these friendlies, you don't necessarily have to look at the result all the time, if not really ever, really. You don't really have to look into it. It's more about the performance and what you see from individual players like a Cam Burgess, who had a poor game, or Iran Kunda, who came off the bench and did really well. It's those bits of analysis that Popovic will go back on, not in terms of the actual results. So yeah, in terms of the whole squad, I think for them, it's a bit of a reset, isn't it? To think, okay, we're not the world beaters that we probably maybe think we are. There's a lot of improvement to do, a few more windows to go. And if the next game against sort of Argentina, if that one's locked in, again, that will be a test on another level, and it will really, sort of not put Popovic under pressure, but it will give him a chance to really put some of the players who are on the fringe to say, okay, here you go. Here's probably one of your last chances to see what you're really made of.
Yeah, 100%. I think the Argentina game in India is still mostly speculation, right? I know there's been reports either way.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Also murmurings of Iran potentially in that window, but still a lot of wait and see on that. But yeah, I think just bring that, make sure we're not complacent going in and continue to fight, which I'm sure they will do. I'm sure internally it's a very different conversation. I'm sure internally they're not really talking about the fact that, they've won all those games in a row and they're going to go on and win the World Cup. It's very game by game, but hopefully they keep that mentality. And finally, our fifth learning from this game is that Popper has a plan B. And I think we talked about, you and I pre-recording, the impact that the subs made off the bench. I think that's great. It might be slightly unrepresentative because the likes of Toure and Irankunda definitely, and maybe even Aiden Frustich, are probably like first teamers when we are playing competitive games. So obviously if you start them, you can't bring them off the bench. But they absolutely made an impact when they came on. But also Mitch Duke, really late. It was in the 89th minute, so we did wait a while. But coming on for Jason Guerrier and then actually shifting the formation to a 4 at the back. From my memory, that's the first time, even if it was only for a few minutes, that the Socceroos played a 4 at the back under Tony Popovic. So we haven't really been in those situations in games where we've been chasing to use that kind of strategy, but it's good to know that if we do get into that position again, then there is a plan to say this is what we're going to do to try and chase the game.
Yeah, it's how I rate coaches around the world. It's whether they have a plan B or plan C, because I think it's really, really important. And this game showed it, right? As soon as Irankunda and Toure came on, game changed. Different energy about it. And I thought, switching to a back 4, like, okay, that's another option up his sleeve, which potentially, like, we thought we didn't really have in him, because as you said, he hasn't really reverted back to that, if at all. So yeah, to have those, a couple of tactical options, someone like Duke, who I don't know if he starts or if he comes off the bench as the World Cup comes around, he's someone who can, just say, for example, come off the bench and hold up the ball, if we're 1-0 up, or if we're trailing by a goal or two, you can bring on some fast-paced players like an Irankunda or a Toure. For now, you probably have to say Irankunda starting, but, the World Cup's still a few months away, so that's that. But yeah, I think the way sort of Popovic has his team set out is great, but the fact that he's got options to rely upon when things don't go his way, that's going to be really pivotal, I think, and especially for the World Cup, because you're facing, it could be a nation that are going to sit back a lot and, let Australia come at you and try and break you down, or you could play an Argentina or a Spain where, okay, you've got to completely flick the switch and go into a more defensive mindset and try and bring on plays to change the game at the right moments. And I think he's got that right balance, Popovic. So just looking at that from a general sense, I think he's on the right page, and Popovic will be very happy about that.